Puffin Crossing as designated there, you actually come to the existing bus stop on the opposite side of the road. And to get to the new sited bus stop, the students would have to turn right along the path and cross Hengist Road with traffic turning left in from Canterbury Road. So it poses some potential safety dangers for the boys and girls crossing there to get to the proposed new bus stop. So that's why mention was made of potentially keeping the existing site of the bus stop, but renovating and putting in a new stop and a new elongated shelter. I think it's also worth noting that at that particular existing bus shelter, on the right-hand end of the shelter, it looks like there's an end barrier, but it's actually a solid advertising structure, which is used for advertising posters, and it's not actually part of the shelter, so that would need to be removed. And I don't know whether there might be some licensing laws attached to that particular thing, because it raises revenue. Somebody must have ownership or responsibility for that. So if consideration was made to creating a new bus stop there, that would need to be taken into consideration. The Hengist Road is potentially going to be made one way from the entrance from Canterbury Road along to the point at Riders Avenue, where it continues as normal. But one consideration that we discussed yesterday evening with that is the potential for moving extra traffic from there into that end of Westgate. And could that cause potential problems with traffic that doesn't exist there at the moment? And could it cause potential queries for people wanting to exit into different directions? So that was an observation that we made. I think other than that, we took the opportunity to walk down to King Ethelbert School, and we actually looked at and used the Puffin Crossing that is there, so that we had a comparison, a physical comparison. And that works really well, because we actually crossed from one side of the road to the other using the crossing as it would be. We did have a query about the length of double yellow lines that are potentially going to be put in, but we don't really feel that that could be a serious consideration or a concern. We did discuss how often people park and where they park when they're dropping off and picking up their children from school. So we didn't really see those yellow lines as a particular issue. I don't know if Councillor Scott may have anything to add to that. Have I missed anything?
No, I think in regards to the double yellow lines, we realised that what they were putting in were probably part of the regulation of a Puffin crossing, so they have to put in these double yellow lines. So that's, you know, that's the end of it. As you said, you know, the fact that then the one-way system in Hengist Road, they actually might want to put in a bay where people are parking to drop children off, and this is actually in the map. And actually what's happening is that then when you cross the Puffin crossing, if then they're going to site the bus on the other side of the road, the children are then crossing the Hengist Road, cars are being directed into Hengist Road to drop children off, and therefore you're kind of moving the safety concern from Canterbury Road to Hengist Road. Because I know that if I was sort of 14, 15, I probably wouldn't turn to look over my shoulder to check that cars were coming into Hengist Road. I'd just run over to the bus stop, or, you know, maybe. So this is the things that sort of we'd like to flag up. But I remember that there was an other option that had already been discussed, that Hengist Road could be turned into a cul-de-sac. So actually, Hengist Road, it is a very, very safe road to cross, because actually there's no access to Hengist Road, and that's something that was floated before. So that would then make the Puffin crossing and then the new siting of the bus stop, which has a little bit more space to it, rather than, you know, a long thin bus stop, that makes it completely safe. But whether that's a good idea to make Hengist Road a cul-de-sac or not, if not, then, you know, we're suggesting that the bus stop should stay where it is on the left-hand side, the Birchington side of Hengist Road, and just be made long and thin with them barriers to protect the children from Canterbury Road, and not be directed across Hengist Road to the new bus site. I think that's the only concern that we have. We think it's, you know, amazing that that the funding, you know, is going to come down for this essential crossing, and thank Councillor Dawson for promoting this and pushing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Pennington.
Thank you. I fully support the idea of the crossing, and I do think it should be made safer for those pupils who are crossing to the Ursuline College and back again. I think there's another issue which maybe we need to address more fully, which is the safety of Hengist Road, which once it gets towards the Canterbury Road is a bit of a what can I say, mixed blessing. You can only exit one way, and I personally would be sympathetic to the idea of just making it a cul-de-sac. It would reduce the traffic on it, and I think it may be necessary to do that to ensure the safety of the scheme as a whole. I don't know if KCC have commented on that possibility yet, but certainly it's one that I think would be worth exploring. Thank you.
Councillor Dawson, have they commented, KCC?
Yes, they have. Richard Heaps, at the very beginning, when they were looking at the road, they were saying, well, possibly we could actually turn Hengist Road into a cul-de-sac when it was like a dead-end road. And because there's not many houses there, and there's the golf course, which I think they would, because apparently they would be quite happy with that because of the, you know, people going through the entrances and the cars coming across the bridge and it being a bit dangerous there for them. So it was actually thought about. So maybe that's something we can revisit.
Thank you. I mean, have any other councillors got any comments on that exit from Hengist Road out onto Canterbury Road? Are you familiar with that exit? Councillor Wallin.
Yeah, it's just what I put in my email earlier, that you do get a lot of people, or you would get a lot of people who would turn out of there if you couldn't go both ways, turn left and then do a U-turn further down the road so they could go in the other direction. So that could make it more dangerous in the future.
That's a good point, actually. That would create another accident, another hazard spot, because that does. It would, because yeah,
some people already do that, but you know, if it's more compelled that you have to, a lot of us will. I do U-turns on the Canterbury Road where you can get across the lanes, as do most of us. So it would become more common. So it is potentially a risk.
Absolutely. Do any councillors actually use that turning, that Hengist Road exit onto the Canterbury Road? Do you use it Yeah, me too. And do you find it really quite dangerous? You have to sit and wait quite a long time. You
Again,
don't.
If you want to turn right, you have to often have to turn left and then look back around yourself, but it still saves time.
That's true. And of course, the roads that are Mordaunt Avenue and Chester Road, they've all been turned into cul-de-sacs. They're further down and they've got the same situation coming out from the, where are we, from the north into Canterbury Road. And they are cul-de-sacs, so it would be part of a pattern. And Councillor Dawson, will KCC have looked at the rest of Hengist Road? You know, what's round the blind corner and the humpback bridge and the width of the road?
Yeah, I think it's a discussion that I need to revisit with Richard Heaps, because when I was talking to him initially, they did sort of like point towards having it as a cul-de-sac, but it hasn't gone any further. So I think I need to have a conversation with him, because obviously these pointers that have been raised are really good and they do need to be looked at, because if we want this pedestrian crossing, we have to make sure that it's completely the best that we can do in the whole system. So I'll talk to him again.
That's good. I mean, and how much better to use the information from people locally who are actually using that road already and know its pitfalls. That's lovely. Councillor Pennington.
Sorry, will we have the opportunity to briefly discuss the other projects which Councillor Dawson mentioned?
Yes. Yes, what would you like to say, Councillor Pennington?
Oh, I'll keep it brief. The question of the introduction of a one-way system, I'm not quite sure what it would involve, but I've already had people concerned about where bus stops would be and how it would function. I think most of the ideas are well worth discussing, but we should be able to discuss them and not sort of learn once they're more or less finalized what is being discussed. I think it's important to see them as a whole, that we look at the whole of the movement of traffic, including pedestrians within Westgate, so that we don't do it in little bits without a proper internal logic. And I don't know if that internal logic has been developed, or whether it's just, you know, we have a scheme to prioritize pedestrians, or we have a scheme to widen pavements or something. I don't know. But I mean, I hope somebody is doing some strategic thinking, and I do think we have a right to be involved in that discussion.
Absolutely. Those projects will come up after the consultation, won't they, Councillor Dawson? So we'll have plenty of time to feed back into those. And if we make it, to put it colloquially, if we make a good job of this consultation, then we're more likely to be listened to in the future on our other views from local point of view.
I think the travel scheme was the actual money that was given from the government for these travel schemes were primarily to actually look at high streets and how they could redevelop them. So, you know, because of the pandemic, it was kind of like this money was given, and these schemes and these projects were supposed to be done sort of like in about 8 weeks, you know, once they've been given the okay. But what they were looking at, because Councillor Wallin first of all came to me and said about the one-way system and that it, you know, possibly could work really well. So I passed that idea back to James Wright, and he then come back once the government was going to dish out all of the funding, and he said, you know, that project, it could actually work quite well, but it was kind of like an idea that could be propelled forward if the funding was given for it, but it would have been temporary. So what he was saying to me was that it was a temporary thing just to see if residents thought it works, and if it didn't, they would take it away. So it wouldn't be there for eternity, you know, it would only be there temporary. That's what I was told. But I think the rush is at the moment to get these projects out, and so it's given little time for any consultation. And I know that sounds really vague, and it's quite sort of worrying for a lot of residents. I think, well, what's going on? We've not had our say, and it's quite difficult for them to understand. And nothing would be done, you know, if it was awarded, that project for Westgate, then it would, you know, you'd know a lot more about it. But at the moment, it's kind of like an idea that had to go up to head office very quickly to be looked at. And so the idea is in there now, and if it does get picked, it may not get picked.
Councillor Hannah Scott, Dr. Scott.
Yeah, I think with that, if something came up where we had some money to look at the one-way system in Westgate and perhaps widen the pavements, and especially widen the pavements on the sides where there's shops, you can kind of envisage, you know, kind of a cafe culture where people are sitting outside, people are able to sort of walk around a bit better than we do now. And then with diagonal parking on the other side, obviously, you know, the bus stop needs to be catered for, so the bus stop would have to, you know, be there. But you know, if we're going to be getting money for a more pedestrianised, more, you know, one-way system, with then extended pavements, it could look actually really nice. So if we won the money, then we could input then, couldn't we?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, Town Clerk.
Yeah.
Jill.
Just Councillor Green had his hand up earlier.
Ah, sorry, Councillor. Is your hand up now? Because it was off screen. Sorry, Councillor Green.
Yeah, I just want to go back to the. Hengist Road access, because I've been thinking about it, and if it was to be turned into a cul-de-sac, that leaves only one way for large vehicular access into the town, which would be Westgate traffic lights. So that's for emergency vehicles, fire appliances, ambulances, so forth. Police and ambulances can get over at the Domneva Road Bridge. But that would then leave large vehicle access either from Birchington, Westgate traffic lights, or Bridge Approach, which is Westbrook. That would then, that's just something that's come to my mind. It does get used for access points coming either way, either from Birchington or from the Margate route.
Yes, because that would affect.
I think it would be a bad idea.
That would
I agree
affect.
with that. Maybe one way.
Okay, Councillor Wallen.
Yeah, on that point, I just want to ask Councillor Green, the new estate behind St Augustine's, there is a sort of like gateway on the Canterbury Road that is permanently locked, but do your lot have a key to open it so you can get in easily? You know, is that a get round that you can use?
Answer is yeah.
Okay.
But
Councillor
people
Wallen.
go around changing. Go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that's not really the question that we're talking about now. We're talking about the Hengist Road and the cul-de-sac.
But this is connected to exactly the point that Councillor Green just mentioned about emergency vehicles getting through. So if you can provide access to them, that might be a get round.
If it was, can I just bring a point? If it was similar to the Canterbury City one way to the centre, where when vehicle comes up, it goes down for access to the town, and that's not a problem. But when you've got items like lockable bollards, people change keys and don't tell us, and then we end up having to smash them in.
Fair point.
It's quite frequent.
Okay.
But it's a good point, Councillor Wallen.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pennington.
Thank you. Yes, I understand it is possible to have entry limited to emergency vehicles only. This is usually done by indicating, by putting cobbles down or something like that, which makes it obvious that it's not a generally used entry. But I'm not an expert.
Councillor Green, do you think that's a solution?
Yeah, or just have signs, something like that, restricted access, emergency vehicles only, maybe. Or as I said, but I don't know how much funding there is for KCC, where you've got the automatic bollards which go up and down. Could be certain times of the day, I don't know, but it's just something bearing in mind, because we are limited where we live. So.
No, that is a good point. Would it be possible to have a restricted, well, just a restricted access, a wall that provides access just for one vehicle the size of a fire truck? Is that something that you use anywhere?
Is there not?
You know, a wall with a gap in it, basically, not for regular traffic, but just for emergency services, because there's ambulance as well, isn't there?
If that's aimed at me, sorry, I missed that. Then it's got to be pretty wide. It's got to be over 3 metres wide.
What's the actual width of a road? Do we know?
It depends. Depends, doesn't it, on the
how
old the road is?
No, it doesn't have to be. All right, no, that's a foolish question. Sorry. All right. Anybody else got any comments? Any other members' comments? No? Jill?
Yeah, just to say that Councillor Nightingale is just joining us again. He dropped out in the middle of that conversation, so he's just trying to get back on the meeting.
Okay. Councillor Dr. Scott, did you want to speak?
Oh yeah, it was just, I think we kind of come back full circle. And if it's making it into a cul-de-sac, then obviously then we're still sort of, you don't want hordes of children crossing over that road then. So therefore, is there a way on the left-hand side and making it more up against the fence? You know, if we move the bus stop to the other side, there's going to be so many children crossing that it then could, you know, just change the safety issue to Hengist Road. Background.
Asked you to start your video, that's all right. I'll start my video.
It's all right. How's Councillor Nightingale doing? Are you there, Councillor Nightingale? No. All right. For this consultation, is everybody happy that we feed back to the PH&E meeting and then they put together the submission to KCC from the Town Council? Is that something, Councillor Wallen, are you wanting to propose that we do that?
Yes, I agree with the concept and I'm happy to propose it.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Pennington. Thank you. Is everybody in favour of that idea? Yeah. Councillor Dr. Scott, are you all right with that? Good. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jill.
Can I just say, I'm going to leave
Yeah.
now. Thank you very much for bringing it forward. That's really great, and I hope you have a good meeting. Thank you.
Well, it's important that we had your report on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Pennington. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Can I take it that the final submission will be circulated to all council members?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, Jill? Okay. Next item on the agenda is item number 5, and it's the Town Clerk's report. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you. Okay, I'm pleased to confirm that the Town Council magazine delivery will commence tomorrow, and thank you to those who contributed to this issue. We've got the Scarecrow Festival now in the centre pages, and we now have over 45 French scarecrows for the weekend. Can't hear me.
I think the other people in the office might need to turn off their microphones. It might be that. Councillor Pennington and Donaldson, you might need to turn yours off because I think we're picking up some feedback or something.
Is that better?
Thank you. Yes, that is better. Yes, you don't sound so
no problem
extraterrestrial.
Okay. So I'm pleased to confirm that the Town Council magazine delivery will commence tomorrow. And thank you to members who have contributed to this issue. We've got the Scarecrow Festival trail map in the centre pages, and we now have over 45 pledged scarecrows for the weekend. Not this weekend, that's the following weekend. The unaudited annual governance and accountability return is now available on our website, notice boards, and in the office window. It's been posted to our website, and the public rights period is open by request from the members of the public and community until Friday, the 7th of August 2020. The unaudited AGAR has been emailed to the external auditors PKF Littlejohn for the final part of the audit process. I will provide members with the correspondence from the external auditors as soon as this is received. The train station part of Westgate in Bloom is now established, and there will be additional planting and mulching taking place this weekend on Sunday. We've had some plants that were being nursed at the allotment gardens over the winter period, waiting for the new footbridge to be completed. So now that the new footbridge has been completed, we can get those planted. Mixology has now secured a temporary home, and they want to commence meeting in September. They will be using the Grenville Lodge on Westgate Bay Avenue, and until they secure a more permanent location, they've been welcomed to use that site. And it's likely that the Armed Forces Breakfast Club will also be meeting at the lodge in future as well. After discussions with Ramsgate Town Council, it has been arranged that the Town Council here can loan a portable pressure washer to tackle some of our grimy pavements. It's due to be delivered on Thursday this week on loan, and the operations team will be trained by the Ramsgate Town Council staff on how to use the machine. That's likely to start being used on Station Road and St Mildred's Road to start with. There's been 2 sessions of training booked. The reactive local council how to deal with virtual meetings. Myself and Councillor Cornford are attending. It's a calc training session. And also I've booked myself on the web access accessibility regulations as well, so that I'm updated with that for September when our website will be ready. Hugo Fox have confirmed. I've commenced some fact-finding emails with Network Rail and South East Rail. There are pockets of land that are hopefully going to be utilised by some community groups that are just past the train station. So it's still South East Rail land, but it's actually past the actual main platform and near the far passenger bridge. So not the new bridge, the other bridge. Some of the areas do look quite untidy, and Ray Taylor's been out litter picking regularly, and he's noticed that they could do with being cleared at the very least, and hopefully they might be able to be used by community groups in future. I will be providing members with an update in due course when I get some feedback. Remembrance Day Parade is confirmed as still taking place by St Saviour's Church, and I've therefore prepared the documentation to share with TDC this week to ensure that we meet the deadline for the road closure submission. The Great British September Clean is confirmed, the dates, which I'll be sharing some more information with you soon. And I'm hoping that we can at least arrange 1 litter pick, members and myself, maybe in 2 teams, to do a beach clean one weekend and possibly a town clean the other weekend. I'll share some more information with you all about that. The funding for the Fixology, I've been talking to Ray Taylor about this, and obviously with Lorraine, she's got the Community Spirit Craft Group, and she used the Town Council to fund through Kent County Council for her group. So it's something that I said I can talk to Councillor Cornford about, and we can explore if we could do the same. So it's just a case of the Town Council utilising the application on their behalf, and then they ring fence the funding on our RBS system, which the group then has access to and provides all the receipts to do the evaluation back to KCC. Thanet District Council today launched the VAM, which is I call dog bones, the vehicle access lines that you can have. It's a scheme for residents can actually purchase. The online application is on the TDC website, and they can actually get the lines drawn at a cost to the residents through Thanet District Council now instead of KCC. There's going to be a phased return as well of the hot desking here in the office. Changing Minds are going to be back here 1 day a week to start with on a Friday. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill, and thank you for all the work that you've put into that over the last month, keeping things moving. Thank you very much. Public right to speak. We don't have anybody wanting to speak, do we, Jill? No, thank you. Item number 7, the review of the governance arrangements, which I'm sure everybody's looked at. The standing orders. Do members have any comments to make on the proposed changes? The first one is on page 6, 1A. It's just a small addition. Jill, would you like to take us through this? Jill, would you like to take us through this?
Fine, that's fine. Sorry, I was just unmuting. Okay. So whilst I was looking at standing orders, Councillor Cornford was in on this as well. So we sat and looked at them together. Basically, I mean, we looked at them over the last 2 years really and tweaked quite a lot. These are the model that NOUT provide, so it's just really to tweak in little places where we feel it would be beneficial for the Town Council. So Councillor Cornford said the rules of debate at meetings, she just wanted to add where it said changed at the discretion of the chairperson of the meeting, she just wanted to add for reasons of expedience, because she felt that gives a more full explanation. And as you see, I did highlight in red for you the track changes so that you can see what the proposed changes were. Then if you turn to meetings generally, section 3, the questions not related to items of business on the agenda for a meeting shall only be accepted from members of the public during the public right to speak part of the meeting set aside on the agenda. Each question shall be put and answered without entering discussion or debate. Now, previously we have had where somebody has to contact the town clerk by 4 p.m. on a Friday to advise of any subject that they want to discuss on the full council meeting. And after conversations with Councillor Cornford, she felt it might be beneficial for residents to be able to come along and actually ask questions as well in that section. So it's not so much that they want to speak about a whole subject, they might literally want to ask a question. So she felt that giving them that opportunity might lead to more engagement, and we might actually have more people coming to our meetings. I know at the moment it's difficult because it's virtual meetings, but hopefully when we're back to having our physical meetings, it might make a difference. So that's the first major alteration that we're proposing. And then if you go further down, where it says a question shall not demand a response at the meeting nor start a debate. So I just felt it is clear to actually spell out to people that we're not saying that every question has to be answered, because it might be that we don't have the answer at the meeting. So it's not that we're saying residents can come along and demand a response, because it might be something that has to be researched and communicated later. So that's where we've just added there, the chairperson of the meeting may direct that a written or oral response be given following the meeting if necessary. That's just that section. And then further down, where I don't know why it was still in there, I thought we'd had like removed last year, where we said that people should request to speak and stand when speaking. I know members didn't like that idea, and we've never really done that, so that's proposed to be removed. And then if you go down, right down to ordinary council meetings. I think actually that was the last. Yes, that was the last proposed change. So all the other parts of it are as they were last year. Thank you.
Sorry, can I just say what we tried to put in on the ordinary council meetings on F? We did try to say the chairperson of the council shall hold office for no more than 2 consecutive years in any 4-year period, but apparently that's not allowed. Thank you, Jill. Comments? Councillor Wallen.
Thank you. I strongly disagree with removing the idea that people talking to try and stand. They should try and stand. It's a matter of respect. And I will not vote for things that say they shouldn't stand. Simple as.
So, Councillor Wallen, you're saying that people should stand? You feel that people should stand when they're speaking?
Of course. It's a matter of common manners and respect. Common manners, and people should respect manners. People should stand. Period. If anything that says otherwise.
Councillor Scott, Dr. Scott. Councillor Dr. Scott.
Standing order actually included us. So in the first year, Councillor King pointed out that in fact all councillors, whenever they speak, should stand, giving the according to the standing orders. And so for one council meeting, we were demanded to stand every time we spoke, which would have looked a bit silly, to be honest, because we'd be up and down like yo-yos. I think this kind of very weird draconian measure of people having to stand when they speak is, I think people should be given the option. If they want to stand when they speak, they can do. If they don't, then they don't have to. And especially, somebody's got a disability, then demanding that they stand up is a bit alarming.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Pennington.
Yes, thank you. I think there are fora where, such as in the Commons in Parliament, where there are a large number of participants, and in that circumstance, I think it is important that people stand when they're speaking, partly simply as a question of identification. But I think, you know, we are where we are, and I think as we are at present, it shouldn't be necessary or required to stand. I know we did have a long discussion on this for various reasons on previous occasions, you know, I'm sure that in TDC, for instance, it's maybe a good idea, but between the 10 of us, I don't think it should be required. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pennington. Councillor Wallen. Councillor Wallen.
Oh, well, yes, as Councillor Pennington, councillors stand, or just the visitors or the people in the audience, I don't mind. I'm happy to stand. Obviously not while we're doing virtual meetings, because that just touch on an acronym. But for actual proper meetings, I think that certainly people of the public who want to speak should stand. It's a matter of respect and common manners.
I'm just a little bit concerned that this has been in our standing orders, but you haven't been standing. So I don't quite understand your objection, but your objection is noted. Are there any other comments on the other changes to the standing orders?
Oh dear.
Are there any other comments? No. Would any councillor like to propose that we implement these changes? Councillor Donaldson, thank you, and seconded by Councillor Page. Thank you. And is everybody in favour? Councillor Dr. Scott, you're in favour? Thank you. Anybody abstaining? Any abstentions? Councillors against? Councillor Wallen, thank you. Thank you, Jill. And then on to the financial regulations. There are some minor changes here, aren't there, Jill? Yes. Starting on page 6. Do you want to say anything about these?
Yeah, that's fine. Just to say that NALC brought out a new model financial regulations September last year after we had adopted in July. So I did look carefully at the latest model and the model that we adopted in 2019. There was really no significant difference. The layout was different. So what I did, I went through all the annotations, provided your annotations where I'm proposing changes. Because obviously with the coronavirus, this has raised issues with expenditure and you know, delegated authority to conduct some expenditure without a full council meeting. So if we turn first to the budgeting and forward planning section, which is section 3, I've just tweaked the months in there as well. So I've said that obviously each committee each year does a forecast of their revenue and their projects coming up. And I've just said that this is an annual forecast rather than a 3-yearly, because we haven't actually looked at as far ahead as 3 years previously. And then I've said that I will report by no later than November detailed estimates for all receipts and payments. This is to obviously feed into their budget working. And this was previously December, which I think is leaving it a little bit late. So I think it's prudent to move that to November. And then if you go down to section 4, which is the budgetary control and authority to spend. So previously I had delegation of under £600. So I'm just proposing that this would be altered to below £1,000. So an increase from under £600 to below £1,000, just to give a little bit more flexibility there if there's another pandemic, which we hope there won't be. So that's where I've highlighted those changes. Similarly, over on section 4.5, this was previously set again at £600, but I think it would be prudent to increase the limit to 1,000. But of course, this would always be with consultation with the chair of the council and the chair of the Finance and General Purposes Committee. So I wouldn't be making those decisions without consulting with the chair and of Finance and Chair of the Council. And then it's the section 4.8 where I've wanted to say, because it said I shall regularly provide, and I now changed that to at least monthly provide the council with a statement of receipts and payments to date under each head of budgets. The one exception will be August when we don't have a meeting, but obviously those reports would follow in September to include August. I've just clarified that. And then section 7.3, this actually stated delegated authority or relevant committee, and I've just changed that to the Human Resources Committee. So this is where no changes shall be made to employees' pay, emoluments or terms and conditions of employment without prior consent of the Human Resources Committee and Council. Just to be clear on the committee that has that authority.
That's lovely. Thank you, Jill.
I think, yes, that was it.
Having read that, do members have any comments to make? Would somebody like to propose that we accept those? Councillor Pennington, thank you. And Councillor Green, thank you for seconding. Are we all in favour? All members in favour? Councillor Wallen, you in favour? Lovely. Thank you. Item number 8, the policies for the Town Council. That's starting with a code of conduct. Jill?
Thank you. Yes, so obviously we looked at this quite closely last year when we adopted it, and we put in the sanctions section. So I had a look at this, and there wasn't anything that has, come to my attention since we adopted it last year. Obviously, there are discussions at the moment with a new model code of conduct that's being discussed with the Local Government Association and now, but nothing has been produced yet. So I think, as it is, this is acceptable for now.
Thank you. Would somebody like to propose that we accept this? Councillor Page, thank you. Seconded by, I think that was Councillor Green, but thank you. Is everybody in favour? Thank you. And then the policies, social media. Jill.
Thank you. So I don't know if you want to take the next as a group. I'm happy to talk through them all, and then if anyone has any questions, we can flag them or put your hand up as I'm going through. Again, the social media policy, we looked at length at this July last year. Nothing significant has changed since we've adopted this policy. So I couldn't see any reason to tweak that one. So that one is as adopted last year. And then obviously the Human Resources Committee have been reviewing some policies throughout the last few months. So this includes the lone working policy, the data protection policy, the request for information policy, the staff email and communication policy, and the smoking policy. Now of those, we had, well, I condensed 2 or 3 of them. The data protection policy now has been condensed, so it's actually 2 pages, so it's much easier, it flows better, and we've actually looked at the formatting as well, so they all, the formatting is all similar for all of them. Similarly with the request for information policy, that now is just 1 page, and this is where members of the public who want to request any information, it's a clear 1 page that they need to look at, and just tells them exactly how they go about that. And obviously we've got our publication scheme now, and we have our Freedom of Information Act that we have to adhere to. So all that information is quite clear and condensed now for residents. The staff email and communication policy, that hasn't been altered at all since it was adopted. So there wasn't anything sprang out that needed changing on that. And similarly, the smoking policy, because that was a newly adopted one last year, I think it might have been the end of the year before, but there is no significant changes or anything that would warrant altering that one.
Thank you, Jill. Councillor Page.
Whilst we're looking at the council's policies, can I just ask, do we still have a vexatious policy within the council?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Do members, Councillor Wallin?
Yes, just thinking about it, the social media thing, section 8.4, seems a bit wrong. I know it's been agreed and it hasn't been changed, but the idea that people should have two separate identities on social media, one as a council and one as an individual, seems very wrong to me. You know, you're one person, so you can only exist once. If you exist twice, then you could give two separate views, and that could cause all sorts of confusion. Jill.
Sorry, Jill. Yes, go ahead, please, Jill.
Yeah, I mean, the suggestion that you have two accounts really is for your protection, because obviously the social media policy is quite, you know, in places it means that you could come into problems under the code of conduct. So I think it's if you keep one account, you've got to be very cautious about what you're posting and how you're posting it. That's all I would say on that. And so the option of having two accounts is easier for people to keep their private life to themselves. And obviously if they want to have their councillor Facebook account, then it's very clear that you are there, you know, speaking as a councillor, not as a resident, or, you know, it could get you into trouble. That's all I'd say. It's good practice.
Definitely. Councillor Wallin.
Well, I strongly disagree with that from various points of view. It seems illogical and it could potentially even lead to fraud, but hey ho, if that's a decision.
Thank you for your opinion, Councillor Wallin. Do any other members have anything they want to express, any thoughts they want to express about these policies? No? Would somebody like to propose that we accept these policies? Councillor Green and Councillor Nightingale, seconded by Councillor Nightingale. Thank you. And is everybody in favour? Lovely. Is anybody abstaining? Anybody objecting? Councillor Wallin. Thank you. Thank you. Right, moving on. Number 9, the financial reports. This again is you, Jill.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. I'll just clear away the social media with those policies. Okay, so these are your usual finance reports, so I think you're getting more used to now. We've actually got the bank reconciliations for each account for you. So you've got the deposit, the petty cash and the current account. So you can see what monies we've had in the account at the 31st of May. Then you've got the payment and receipts reports, which actually lists the payments that have gone in and out of each account. So you've got the receipts and the payments in a list for you. And then you've got the receipts and payments by budget heading, which is a 2-page report, which just breaks down, again, this is to the 31st of May. So it breaks down for you under the budget headings, what we've spent to date, and then gives you the percentages as well down the side, which is quite useful. And then this is the new report that we worked on with Councillor O'Connor. So this is the annual budget by combined account code. And I just want to flag up that on here, obviously, you'll see that the VAT was repaid to us that we claimed for last year. And that's showing at the moment on 515, code 515. And this will have to be tweaked on the codes because it's actually in the wrong code at the moment, but it will be corrected for the next report. So yeah, if there's any questions on any of these figures, or if anyone needs any further reports, because we can actually drill down in the system and get more, you know, accurate, well, not accurate, but more information. If you wanted to drill down and see what's specifically under each code, we can do that for you, not a problem.
Thank you, Jill. Are there any comments? Right, moving on. Item number 10, representation on outside bodies. Town Clerk, Jill.
Thank you. I just wanted to, if you can vote, please, to say you've received the reports.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Who would like to second that? Councillor Pennington. Propose it. Councillor Pennington.
Yes.
Seconded by Councillor Green. Thank you. And now moving on to the representation of outside bodies.
Thank you. Okay, so you're all aware that obviously we've resolved that Councillor Pennington and Councillor Cornford would be representing the Town Council on the Thanet Area Committee. Since that list has been sent to members, Councillor Donaldson's actually communicated that he would like to be representing the Town Council as well. Did you want to speak about that, Councillor Donaldson? Or?
Yeah, so I'd like to represent the Town Council on the, there's a bit of an echo in here actually. Anyway, I would like to represent the Council on Thanet Land Community Land Trust, sorry. And also I do a lot of work with a Kent-wide organisation, which is Social Enterprise Kent. So I'd like to be the representative on both those organisations.
That sounds really good. What do members feel about that? Councillor Pennington.
Both of these are exceptionally important and good organisations, and I feel it would be really good for us to have an official voice on them. So I'd support Councillor Donaldson's proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we taking a vote on this, Jill? So is everybody happy for the chairman and Councillor Pennington and Councillor Donaldson to represent us? Dr. Hannah Scott proposed it and Councillor Page seconded. And everybody's in favour. Thank you. Councillor Pennington, yes. Donaldson, good. Thank you. Item number 12, Westgate in Bloom. Jill's got a couple of extra things to say to us. And we've all got these diagrams, which are planting schemes and the plants that are going in, which is really helpful.
Thank you.
Jill.
Thank you. Okay, yes. So there's two elements to this really. So the Westgate in Bloom lottery funding, obviously you're all aware we were awarded £10,000 and that was beginning of last year. There is a time constraint on the funding for 2 years. So obviously it would be spring next year that we would really need to be spending this funding. And the original application that Councillor McAuliffe submitted was for the use on Sea Road. So that was the site that he said the funding would be used for. So it could be improved and provide a focal point for the Bloom project. During this year and last year, Mr. Wiseman's been busy. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed him out on Sea Road and some other volunteers as well. And he's been busy tidying up the area, painting, looking after the shelter for the community. So he's really worked hard. He's been having conversations with Thanet District Council as well, and they have started the planting on the Sea Road beds, flower beds. So they've been planting their perennials rather than bedding plants. And our new TDC tree officer, Kevin, is actually proactive and provided some planting hand-drawn schemes that I've shared with you all, 4 pages in total. So that was his vision for Sea Road. Unfortunately, I think the budget for the funding scheme, the planting scheme, has been sort of curtailed slightly because of the obviously pandemic situation. And I've been speaking to him because I said that we do have Westgate in Bloom funding, and that it might be an opportunity for us to be able to use some of that money. It was £5,000 for plants set aside to help with these planting schemes. So that's the first part of the proposal. You'll see that he submitted a list of plants that he's looking for to complete the scheme. I have to say, I've been working with Jasmine sort of the last week trying to contact suppliers. We haven't had any luck yet with anyone that's actually got the plants, because I think it's a bit late in the season, they're telling us. So if any members have any ideas, if you resolve to progress with this, it would be quite helpful if anyone's got any ideas on any suppliers that we might be able to approach. So that's the first element of that. And then if you move to the second page, the other project is the shelter with the sun deck, which is next to Finbar's restaurant. Again, Mr. Wiseman's been weeding, cleaning and painting. He's painted the benches underneath where people sit in the shelter, and there are children making murals to put on boards on the walls in there as well at the moment. So he's been working with the community to try and make it look more hospitable for everybody. Obviously, when he's been doing the weeding and the cleaning up there, the balustrades are in quite a perilous condition. They're crumbling, the workmanship, he's had a contractor out to have a look at them, and they said that it's not in a good state of repair at the moment. So it does need some very soon remedial works to make sure it doesn't crumble altogether and we lose it. Obviously, with the district council's funding position, I don't think this is money that they're going to be volunteering to spend. And we had the situation, obviously, you remember, with the shelter, with all the Harris fencing around it. And if it wasn't for Mr. Wiseman stepping in, you know, the Harris fencing may still be there. So he was talking to me about the situation and how much the cost is for making the mould, the manufacture of the mould, and then actually casting the balusters, and then the delivery of those to the site. And it just occurred to me that with the Westgate and Bloom funding we've got, this is an ideal opportunity to actually make a difference to a heritage part of our seafront area that all the community do enjoy. I mean, I know it's been warm lately and you've had a lot of people out and about on the promenades, and it's an area that people do like to sit up on the benches on the top as well. So I thought I'd put the report together for you, because I've obviously got all the information from Mr. Wiseman, who's contacted Kent Balusters, because they are specialised in doing this sort of work. And he's estimated that the maximum of 15 balustrades will need replacing, which would be a total cost of £905 plus VAT. And the Westgate and Bloom funding did stipulate £1,250 were for building works activity. So this would fit with that aspect of the funding as well. And I think it would, you know, benefit the visual impact and also be a vital lifeline for a part of our crumbling heritage. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. No, that sounds really good. Does anybody have any comments? Councillor Pennington.
I'd like to thank the clerk for the best presentations of a project I've heard since I joined this council. I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dr. Scott.
Yeah, so with the planting, have you tried Young's Nursery by any chance? You may have already done that. It's it was a yes.
Yes.
You've already tried them. Oh, I just know that they're a big. It was a big, you know, quite a big place out there. So I just thought maybe that's a good option. But as regards to the project, I think it's a brilliant idea. You know, we need to spend the money. It fits in really well, and it'll make the seafront look amazing. And the planting scheme looks brilliant. That's been put forward by Kevin, our tree officer. Perhaps sort of going forward, I'm going to be working with him on a project to do with wildflowers and wild meadows. So perhaps that can be something that we think of in the future as well, to bring in some wildflowers as well.
Lovely, along the verges. So, Councillor Pennington, is that a proposal that we accept this? And seconded by Councillor Dr. Scott? Yes. And everybody in favour? Lovely. Councillor Nightingale, Councillor Wallin? Good. Thank you. Thank you, Jill. And then we have an addendum, which is a planning item. Councillor Dr. Scott.
So unfortunately, I haven't got the documentation in front of me with regards to the tree officer's report. However, verbally, he stated that he's very, very concerned about a development that's being proposed, where there's going to be 9 trees cut down. So on the crossroads, Canterbury Road and St Mildred's Road, there's the old Catholic church, which at first I think I've already reported this to you before, that Miles and Barr came to us and explained that they wanted to refurbish the church, but then as time went on, they realised that it'd be better to demolish it because the cost wise or whatever. But they put forward an application which was about 3 times the size of the church on the plot and about 4 stories high. So that was at first turned down, and they put in another application, but this is still a very large application, has got the offices on the bottom, but then a lot of flats on the top, and for every flat that you put on the top, it needs a parking space. So a lot of trees are being cut down for parking around the back of this plot, and this is actually in a conservation area, so it's in our kind of historical conservation zone, which has higher level of planning protection. So he visited the site and he realised that there's very, very large, mature, good condition home oaks there, and he's proposing that these actually need to have tree protection orders on them, and that for the trees that really necessarily have to come down for a building to be placed there, there's a new scheme where you can actually lift a tree up and move it to another site. So that's quite an interesting one. But he's suggesting the ones that are being proposed to be cut down for car parking shouldn't be cut down, but instead the crown should be lifted and car parking should be placed underneath the trees, or something should be done with this development instead of cutting down very mature trees in that area. So I think he's proposing a tree protection order, and I think this is one of the first times that he's done this. So it's really kind of setting a precedent, and it's common sense really for the area, but it's never been done before. So this will be one to watch, and one that we really need to sort of give him our support to say that this is the way that we really want developers to think about the area now, and think about the environment whilst making money and building the economy. We agree with the benefit of the offices, of Miles and Barr being in Westgate. However, a compromise could perhaps be met. So this is a really great thing. So as soon as I get the report, I'll forward it to all the councillors. Lovely, thank you very much, because it really is very exciting that he is supporting us. But he has been, I was going to use the word nurtured by yourself and the clerk. So that's a really positive outcome. Thank you both. And that's the end of our agenda items tonight. Thank you, Jill, for putting it all together. Thank you for being there always for us, reliable and always available. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks everybody for attending.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks. Good night.
Thank you.